Hi friends, today we are going to draw something beautiful with just two pencils, a piece of paper and a little bit of imagination. Let's start.
Well, first thing is to use pencils. These two pencils we will use today, a HBY, a 2B if you don't have these two, and a clear eraser. With a normal HB might be worth it. We started doing this. Imagine this is paper, because the idea is that everything you want to draw has to go within the area you're drawing. That is, you make the approximate shape of the silhouette without shape or anything, like a giant centered potato. On the paper and the size you want, let it be your drawing, no matter how big or small. By the way, it's not stuck up or down, okay? And in that form. Now, if we do a sketch of our drawing, in this case, because it's going to be a very simple landscape, because we're going to do the first form, for example, because here I think it will go, because a rock is more or less worth a rock here, and I will define it here later, because I will see a bush later, as I will draw it. Here's a slope I'll see, here's a tree, and I've basically got the distribution of everything, as you can see, sitting right where we should be. Okay, now that we've got everything in place, we've done the composition, we call it, and we're going to start drawing and refining all of this. For example, the two sides I asked for were placed on the tree because they were very fat and very straight. A real tree has a rough count unless it's an Abdul or something, but they're generally rough. So we're gonna do it like this, okay? Remember, a tree doesn't stop being like a cylinder, you know? So it has to be about the same width up as down, though a little less up. There is nothing better to delimit areas than the vegetation at the foot of the tree. And this I'm drawing here is the roots, which we've never put in any drawing. But in this case, we're going to make this tree look like it's well rooted. It's so good, it's so strong, it's got roots that even protrude from the ground, clutched. And let's now look at a little more below. Then I'll tell you more about how to make these roots look like they're not floating in the air, they're all right, they're sitting on the ground, they're solid trees, right? It's not enough to do this, it's like we do it, because I don't know how streams or branches or whatever roots are. Okay? And they don't stop being like branches, but they go underground. Only in this case this part is visible, although most of the roots of the tree will obviously be underground. Here we're going to put a branch, but instead of it coming out of one side, we're going to make it come out of the middle. This way it's going to be very easy, very easy. We do this, as you can see in some areas, I focus it on the camera, so it can be seen in more detail, so that you can do it more easily. Okay, sometimes not. And now, the other big trick of this landscape, while I'm going to erase this and clean this part because there's no need for branches that are not transparent, and there's a range of magic tools to erase them, we remove the rest and hurl, running by the way, once we start erasing it, is nothing more. As long as we have done the sketch and have started drawing every time there is a line left, we will remove it because the remaining lines can lead us to make mistakes. Not me, because it doesn't happen to me, because I have a lot of practice. But it did happen to me, and then it happened to me, and I know it made me very angry. I advise you when you have finished the sketch, but you have more or less defined the sketch, all the lines you can remove from the sketch. Remove them sooner, better later. Okay, I'm going to do more branches, so you see, following the methods we've seen in other videos of how to draw trees on this channel, which, you know, there are several up here, I'm going to leave you a playlist. How to draw from scratch, where you will see how to draw trees just in case. You're new to the channel and you've never seen it, so if you find this very difficult, you start there. Okay. According to what we were, a very important trick and secret that any professor or professor of the world at an art school is going to give you. And that advice we've all given and we're going to give until it falls the world to pieces, is this. Like on a roll, huh? The less the better. I've finished the trick, we can go home, don't look, come on, I'll start a little better, the less the better, you mean. We don't have to put everything in the landscape, we have to put the protagonists that matter. For example, in this case, the protagonist is the trunk and its roots, this rock here, okay? That's the protagonist. I really don't need anything else to make the landscape. I could make it feel whole sheet, but it wouldn't look as nice as what I'm doing. Okay? Can you make a tree without having to draw the whole tree? You can draw on a river without drawing the whole river. And you can draw a flower without drawing the whole flower, which, in addition to giving it much more interest, is very cute. For example, if we don't draw the whole tree trunk, the slope we drew before is my horizontal, which I don't think is interesting, so I make it more inclined. First, I took the line with Christ and did it as I suggested with herbs. The grass is just a line, just like you've seen the tree. We're going to make it rough, we're going to make it interesting with cracks. It's an old tree, it's got a lot of history behind it, maybe 100 years old here. Then it must have, because its bark screams at the trees, and the bark naturally cracks. When they grow up, nothing happens. That's why. Look what I told you before. A tree never ceases to be a cylinder, you know, like a tube. A tube. So one way to shade it would be this, by making lines that suggest it's round. By the way, you're making shadows. You're suggesting the shape of the tree. Another trick. That's coming very well. It can also be applied to branches. Then you can cross the plot, make other lines to make it darker. Then even I will definitely do it in the drawing to give it more interest and more emphasis. But the lines in a drawing are fundamental. No, it's not the same thing to make a line to one side as to the other, or a straight line or a curve, because the lines in a drawing are, say, substitutes for the painting in a frame. So, to know the shape of things, lines tell us the direction, the shape, the volume, everything. If we are drawing with very blurred shading, the lines are not so important. But in a case like this, which is rougher, more artistic, it's very, very important that the lines follow the contours that we want to draw well. Okay, nothing. From here, the line gets any address. And without getting too far off the edge. But remember, an art drawing is not like what we do, for example, in a coloring book that is fantastic, wonderful, and of depth. And I will always recommend it my whole life. But in a coloring book, everyone who has ever done it or drawn some coloring drawing, come on, I've already scratched myself, anyone who has ever done it. He realized one thing, that the drawing is surrounded by dark lines that close each silhouette, at least in the most basic. What, you can't get out of there with the drawing one? It's like you're in a prison. However, in artistic painting, we do not need to be so careful. We have to do it, follow the contours, make contrasts, don't get in where no one calls us, the lines where they don't paint anything. But if any of the lines come off a little bit somewhere. Nothing's wrong with him, but absolutely nothing. Maybe even give him more interest in your painting. Okay? So, by the way, I'm using the pencil for you to see that I'm still using the HB pencil, which I haven't changed at any point. Well, by the way, I'm using a pencil sharpener, and someone asked me, and he said, hey, lately they've taken out pencils with very long tips, because believe it or not. My famous crank sharpener, the one I was 9 years old, the one in the last video I used, died. It was completely broken. I had to buy another one. I bought another one on Amazon. It turned out to be so long. It seemed very ugly to me because when I drew, my hands looked better. So it's not that I'm stretched in the drawing, it's that I've pulled out the mine, so it's very clumsy. And I don't know if you want to put the link down there, if you want to put it on Amazon. In the description, maybe I put it because no one paid me to put it, but come on, I put it, it's already there, because you must see that it's not an advertisement because I'm not paid like this. Just good, whatever we go, come what we go, and follow the lines like that. Do you remember when we were climbing mountains? In some landscapes, we don't have to shade it to death to make the tone look very dark. If we give it as on these rocks, in the shadow's own bordecito, where does the shadow end? Start with white, we give it a little more dark color. It's better if we want it to be a softer form, because we don't touch it so much. As you can see in this drawing, we're not touching the blur, which is the white thing that blurs the drawing. We're not touching it, we're not touching it. The only tools we're going to use are the ones you saw at the beginning, 2 pencils and an eraser. Very beautiful drawings can be made. They are actually made and are wonderful without blurring anything at all. Don't get too complicated, okay? And this thing I'm going to do now is a really cool thing. See, look what I do on a piece of dirty old paper that's worn out the mine. For what? For this. to have in that part that I've worn out a wider stroke. I could even go through a sanding and have an even wider piece to make branches, because many plants like. In this case, it is not necessary to use 2 lines, one for each side, but for example, a simple line is equivalent to a trunk or branch. You see that? For example, look at how easy it is to stop a low shrub, because in this case, the leaves have fallen, because it is already autumn, because it is obviously autumn or winter in this landscape that I have invented, because we just do it and stay. We suggest that there is a bush here. It is still a pussy. It is good. But one thing is clear. It only branches like this. There is nothing. Because it is very strange. We're going to make a little breeze here, which is a plant that usually keeps leaves, and leaves in winter. So if they're small ovals, very small, so you don't see them, it's an oval. And we're going to do it at a per unit level. Pim, every one of them. Different size, so it has a little texture. You see that? It's not just small ovals, you have a little breeze. And in winter, the leaves in the field are usually very beautiful, so we have changed the texture. Not only the bare or rocky texture of the leafless trees, but also the vegetation of the grass. In winter, many kinds of herbs come out because we put them here, in addition to passing. They cover the base of the bush and it's cooler, which is another little trick that suits us. When we don't know how to knock down a tree or bush, we put a grass on it. So it's very funny. Now I've changed my pencil, and I'll take the 2 Bs you said. Why did you let me buy it if you didn't use it? So look for this. Highlight some details, reinforce some shadows. No, more or less, just to give it a little bit. But no, not to go over the whole drawing, because then it would be all the same tone and we wouldn't have gained anything. Look like this to make some weed here and here by the tree. Usually the grass is shorter because there are so many roots in the tree that there is not much vegetation, but it can be placed. I could even put a fern or something on it, but we do it another day. So if you want, we do it another day because the vegetation under the trees looks really cool. Or, like in this case, put a rock that covers it a little in front, that we don't see the whole tree. So we force the viewer to think about what the tree will look like from behind. No one will think about it consciously, but it does intrigue you because there is nothing worse than a boring work of art. And it is boring. Look, now we take the eraser. Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on the plane first, you see. Look what I've done without erasing everything, just in pieces like this. See a little bit of the lower edge of the roots and the rocks. Why do I clean the crumbs of the draft well for this? Because I'm going to draw other herbs, like I told you before, and so you don't see the bottom edge in pieces. In pieces, yes. And in pieces, no. I mean, we'll lose the edge in one place and get it back in another. That makes it a little more realistic, a little more interesting. For example, look, they make the root here. One part looks the root well, and the other part is covered by rocks. If it hadn't been erased, you would still see the silhouette from behind. Well, this is pretty much what we have. We have very little left for all of you and those who come in now and say, oh, how cool is this? How many of the more than 300 drawing and painting tutorials are there on this channel? Vivid and interesting art, please give you a round, it is very cute, subscribe to you. Giving likes and those things always cool and helps the channel continue to grow and make YouTube know you like it and teach it to more people, because if you don't like it, it won't teach anyone. So if you want more people to know how to draw and you want people to have fun, give it a like. I've already said it. Hala. Well, we're going to give it a little more texture. I'm still using my pencil 2B. I'm not going to change the pencil in all the remaining drawings. It's very small, just because give me a little more roughness to remember that and some details. Detail. Don't get carried away by the details, because if everyone is small, the drawing doesn't have, there's nowhere to take it. Okay, look at what's so cute, that crack, how good it is. Okay, well, there's a little more here, and we've almost got it. By the way, thank you very much, because in the previous video, the last one I uploaded, the one in the forest, how do they make a super easy forest? You gave me a great welcome after so many months of not being able to upload a single video. I thank you very much. You are really, come on, a great family. The family here is very lively and interesting art. You are very great. Come on. Thank you very much. I tried to answer everyone. I was exhausted. I couldn't answer you all in the end, so I'm telling you here so you can tell us. I'm giving this guy a comment here. Super cool. He didn't tell me anything. You know I tried. But you're a lot many, and I couldn't. But thank you very much for really commenting that it is. And well, those things. Well, look how beautiful it is. How beautiful it is. How easy it is to do, and remember, the less. It's better, draw less, and it looks better. Make the silhouette around to know where to put the drawing and nothing. Have a good time. Be happy, draw a lot. See you in the next video. Bye.